Timmy Joe reviews anything.
Reviewing computer parts on YouTube.
That's
Woo! You gotta be pumped on that, right, Will? Computer parts! Woo!
Oh, yeah.
What's going on, fellas? My name's Timmy Joe. I'm still a little bit sick. Making videos about computers on the internet. You gotta make them because that's how you get paid. You do the things and the stuff, you make the videos. And I bought this myself, 1660 Ti. And I'm gonna tell you why I'm returning it. It's a silly deal. It's no good, especially here in Canada. But before we get to this video where I'll show you the performance of this, in my opinion, we gotta do that sponsory shilly spot, you know, where you just talk about some VPN or something. So, Privacy VPN, yes, Privacy VPN. And I'm gonna tell you guys, without any BSing, why I would pick Privacy VPN, okay? Because I'm a casual user of a VPN. I don't, plan to have it on all the time, but there's definitely times where I'm on public Wi-Fi with my Android phone and I want it protected. Or, I want to stream something that's in another country. Just load it up, make it happen, and it's in your back pocket. Or maybe you're doing something shady on the internet. You want to make sure that no one's going to steal your information. Well, it's good to have them in your back pocket. You see that middle price there? $225 a month for a 2-year plan. That totals out to $54. Keep that in mind for a second because, oh my goodness, there's one, $667. Oh, there's one, $399 for a 2-year plan. Okay, all paid up front. Oh, there's another one. That one's $83 for the 2-year plan, all up front, because it's $349 a month. Privacy's already the cheapest, and I'm gonna give you 20% off of that 2-year plan. Use the code, it's gonna be a limited time, 2Y Privacy. It's on the screen, links are in the description. You can save a stupid amount of money. It goes from being $54 all in once for 2 years worth of VPN service down to $43.20 USD. That's the reason why I would pick it up, because it's nice to have one, and if you don't have one, that's not gonna break the bank. So thanks to Privacy, for doing the thing. Moving on to Nvidia. You made a video card, okay? And you made a bunch of them. And then there's been a lot of BS. And I'm just so hoping that Navi's good enough to kick your butt on price levels. I know you can make the cards and they perform well. In fact, this thing in its form factor it's ridiculous the performance you get out of the PCB's only this big, man. It's like it's like a 1063 gigabyte. This thing, it's very tiny, it's very powerful. It only has a 4-pin connector, and you know what? I'm going to show you the performance and stuff. But if on its merits alone, as it is, if it was the right price, it would be a beautiful product, and I would keep it. It's a cool card because it does not need a lot of power, and it overclocks half decently. You can fire it in a system and really get some raw performance in a tiny little form factor without worrying about cooking anything, And I'll show you some of the cards that I would choose over this because of the price and how much power those things suck up. It's crazy. So here's the one I bought. It's the Gigabyte OC Windforce. It's the generic. It is the cheapest one on Amazon in Canada, anyways. And it's got a cooler that's adequate with 2 heat pipes, and it's got fans that spin, and then sometimes they spin another way. It's all great. They got heat pipes. Look at how great that is. That's wonderful. But if you look on here, what's the price of these things? Well, they're $280, $270 is the cheapest EVGA version. This should be a $220 video card. It really should. It really should. It should be a $200 video card in the low end. You know why it's not? Because no one's made progress, okay? And you still have a RX 580 in for $200, which this thing spanks. Or, a 1060 was still way too expensive before this came out. But, this thing should replace the 1060 and 1063 gigabyte, and really it doesn't because it's more expensive. It kind of sucks. And I'll show you what I'm talking about, okay? Here we go. Zotac. There's a couple different 1070s on here. A 1070 will trade blows with this, okay? It actually will benchmark in a lot of things a lot higher, but because this has a little, whoops, just throw it on the ground. I'm returning it. Because this thing has a little newer technology in it, some of the newer games, it plays much better. It will get better FPS. But for the most part, we could say this is a 1070 equivalent, okay? And, well, look at the prices of these things. $300. There's $200 for a Quicksilver model, an MSI. $200, you could go and buy a 1070 when that thing is 200 new is $270 for some, 3-slot weird version from EVGA. Or how much is this one? It's $280. So you could save a bunch of money and go on eBay and find one. And yeah, it's a used card, but you know what? There you go. It's pretty much the equivalent with 3 fans even. And I think a 1070 would overclock better than this. I've had several 1070s and this felt like a baby 1070 to me. It didn't really feel like, and it's going to be a little bit more power efficient than a 1070, but you can get some pretty small 1070s, a la this Zotac version right here. It's a little bit more expensive on eBay, but going down the line, do 1070 Ti. That's where I'm going to be looking. I'm going to look for one of them because those spank this card for sure. And can we get as cheap? Well, let's keep looking. It's a little more expensive, It's up there about $300. But what's that extra $30 going to get you? It's going to net you a whole bunch more of performance is what I'm thinking. And that's where I'm imagining that if I'm patient, once I get the money back for this, I should be able to find a 1070 Ti that will spank this thing, and I'll do a video 1070 Ti versus for the same price or whatever. And yeah, it's gonna work out. It's gonna be fun. So what else? 980 Ti. Now we're getting into some high level, need a good power supply, sucking lots of power performance. But you can get those for stupid cheap. And it will outperform in 80% of games, maybe some newer games, not so much, maybe some, more complex stuff, not so much, but like, here's a 3-fan blower, 230 for, and this thing's got the same amount of VRAM, and yeah, it's going to suck a bunch more power, and it needs 2 power connectors, and and it's not going to be as good in a small form factor, but it's possible to save money and get a little bit better performance than this thing can offer, ish. Yeah, because a 980 Ti is faster than a 1070, and this thing's not quite as fast as a 1070 in certain things, so you get where I'm going, right? You get where I'm going. I was checking out all my 3D Mark scores, okay? And I ran the 3D Mark on my 8-core 7820X running at 4.8 gigahertz, and this is what I came up with the card, not overclocked, and then if you overclock it, just a smidgen to get it up there in the like 1950 to 2000 megahertz. That's what a cheap card will do. Maybe a really expensive one spending way too much more money might net you 5% better overclock. It bumps up pretty high, near 18,000 graphics score there and look at the graphics scores because some of these CPUs are going to change. But yeah, we're going from a 16,767 to a 17,959. Pretty decent bump to do a little bit of overclocking on it, and it's got 6 gigs. It's a pretty good card. As we'll find out, I ran my benchmarks at 1440p, and this thing maxes 1440p out as long as you don't want to run it on a high refresh rate monitor. And if you do, you'll have to turn some settings down. But let's move on to some other cards. 1070, there we go. 19, it almost gets 20,000, almost 20,000 graphics score, okay? So this thing's pretty far off of it. Now, if we go ahead and run Time Spy, and I'll show the Time Spy in a second, I didn't have Time Spy data for I just wanted to compare it on, I think Firestrike represents a lot of the gaming out there, and Time Spy represents the top echelon of AAA titles. Well, it's spanking it, but I bet at Time Spy this thing would actually do better than a 1070. But then we got the 980 Ti, and you see it's got 22,000. And we just saw an equivalent model to the one I'm testing in this Firestrike here, and it was cheaper than this thing by a good deal. So this thing's silly to me. It's because there's been no competition for Nvidia. They can charge whatever they want, and let's hope Navi comes along and changes this. And there is rumors that this might happen. There's no way AMD doesn't come out with some cards and they're able to undercut them. I'm hoping they do the Ryzen thing like they did to Intel, where they release some good video cards and they make it happen so that the prices get lower. But traditionally, Nvidia doesn't give 2 fucks, and they just end up putting whatever prices they want on stuff. And if they lower the price of this, it'll be by $20 at the most. But there's your Time Spy score, just in case you wanted to check that out. So yeah, not so bad, but I think this thing would actually beat the 980 Ti and the 1070 and Time Spy. But all in all, they all have similar video memory. Even the 1070 has 8 gigabytes, so that's another added feature that I just totally forgot to mention. This thing's kind of dumb, in my opinion. It should be priced lower. And we all know that everyone hates the ones below it. where the 60, maybe the 1660 non-Ti is like kind of a good entry point, but I don't know. This thing really did not check the boxes for me. So let's show you some gaming benchmarks as I always do, showing you 10 games that I benchmarked the card in at 1440p at some settings that were reasonable. And when we come back, we'll do a little conclusion, because that's what we do, right? Okay, so like the performance is not bad, especially for the form factor. It was just pretty good. 1440p, you could run most games like maxed out on this thing, with the exception of a handful. But I was hoping that like in Fortnite at epic settings that you could run the high refresh rate monitor, but you got to turn down the settings a bit. But I guess most competitive Fortnite players would probably, you know, turn a few settings down anyways to maximize their FPS and their 1% lows and stuff like that. So, you know, you could definitely run a 1440p high refresh rate monitor with this. And it was a decent experience, but I'm the kind of guy that likes to jack all the settings up, and this thing just doesn't have the horsepower to do that with that monitor. 1080p, this thing is a pretty good card. If you have a 1080p high refresh rate monitor, sure, it'll work out. But for the price, there are some better options, less the power. You know, this thing sips power. You gotta give it that. So, this Amazon screen I have up here, this is what I paid for the card. So I'm in Canada, and we get terrible prices. So I paid $379, and with taxes and, you know, delivered to my door, it was over $400. Oh my God, over $400. That makes me want to puke for that, what I paid for that. So I'm gonna go and look. I'm gonna go try and find a 1070 Ti, like right here. There's the same price almost that I just paid. Yeah, it's a blower model, but we could do some fun things. We could put an accelero on it. We could put a water block on it. We could do some fun things and really cook some performance for the same price. So once I get this returned, whoa, I may get a 980 Ti, I may get a 1070 Ti, but I'm gonna find better performance for the price, and I'm gonna make a case for that in a new video when I find the appropriate card. You know, and if I don't, I don't know, there won't be a video, who knows. But I want to thank IVC VPN for sponsoring this video. Again, you can save 20% on a 2-year plan and pay just over $40 for 2 years worth of VPN service. So you have that safety in your back pocket, or that ability to stream in another location, or save some money, or this, that, and the other thing. There's a lot of reasons to do a VPN. You guys are smart. That's a really good price, and might as well check it out. Links are in the description below. But yeah, 1660 Ti. Not impressed. If it was 220 American, you know, or if it was like 300 Canadian, I'd be all over recommending this thing. But unfortunately, they have to make too many variations, a non-TI version and this and that, and they can't bring themselves to give the gamers the cards they deserve, because we're still paying the same amount of money, as far as I'm concerned, as we did the last generation, especially considering there was so much BS with mining and stuff like that. Graphics cards, unless you want an RX 570 or an RX 580, or in that class, there's just terrible prices as far as I'm concerned. Like, you shouldn't have to pay through the nose for performance at this juncture, because we're still living with the performance of a 980 Ti, which launched like, what, 5 years ago? It's just like, it's silly, in a lower end card like this, that it can't beat that performance, So I'm at Watch Timmy Joe, Instagram and Twitter, and check out I have a CVPN below. You don't have to, whatever, you could do it if you want, but it would be fun if you did. And 1660 Ti, I'm gonna package it up. Let's do it right now. I'm gonna get returning it, and we'll find a better deal than this. Sometimes I have to find the little nipples. We'll find a better deal than this, and we'll make it happen. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful weekend.